Hello and welcome to Capacity TV. My name is Saf Malik, Deputy Editor at Capacity. Today I'm joined by Dan Caruso, Managing Director at Caruso Ventures and author of the book Bandwidth. Dan was also the founding CEO of Zayo Group and one of the founding executives of Level 3 Communications. Dan has also been a keynote speaker at Metro Connect for a number of years, and it's a pleasure to have you today, Dan.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys reaching out and coming back to Metro Connect.
Dan, with the event now welcoming more than 3,500 attendees, Metro Connect has established itself as a leading forum for digital infrastructure and investment. It's fast gaining a reputation as the #1 event for digital infrastructure and financing. From your perspective, what is driving that momentum and why is 2026 shaping up to be such a pivotal year for the show?
Well, 2026 is pivotal because of AI. AI entered the scene just a handful of years ago, has picked up dramatic momentum, and as we all know, is requiring a data center infrastructure that is bigger and more profound than anything we even imagined 4 or 5 years ago. And then the fiber networks to connect up to both those very large data centers, as well as how to support AI as it proliferates at the edge.
And Dan, what has the event meant to you personally over the years?
Well, we started Zayo Group in 2007, and Metro Connect back then was a tiny conference, but it was instrumental in both us launching Zayo. A lot of the major M&A activity that Zayo did in building up its company was done right at Metro Connect itself. A lot of the relationships were built there that turned into combinations that were used not just by Zayo Group, but then attracted vast sums of money from the digital infrastructure investors to fund other fiber companies and other data center platforms. So in some respects, Metro Connect was an integral part of launching Zayo, but also played a very pivotal role in the resurgence of the bandwidth industry.
And Dan, as I mentioned earlier, attendance for the event is expected to exceed over 3,500 people. With the scale of the event continuing to grow, what are you most looking forward to at the event?
Well, I'm coming back for the first time in 5 years. I was the keynote speaker for, I don't know, maybe even as many as 10 years prior to that. Zayo played a big role in helping to shape Metro Connect and attracting attendees, and it's in that 2010 to 2015 timeframe. So I'm coming back to see something that I have pride in, that I have a lot of memories, that a lot of relationships that I built over the years, but I haven't been as active with in the last handful of years. I'm just so excited to see what Metro Connect has become, see the new companies that have sprouted, many of which are led by peers of mine, by colleagues of mine at Zayo Group and colleagues of mine at Level 3 Communications. So to see their careers blossoming and turning into leaders within the industry is certainly another reason why I'm excited to come down to Metro Connect.
And Metro Connect it's always been known for kind of the depth of conversations rather than just the deal making. What key topics, and I know you mentioned AI already, but what other topics do you expect to dominate the agenda this year?
Yeah, certainly everyone's mind is first and foremost on AI, but there's a lot of other major technology change that is happening that's related to AI, but at the same time are significant in and of themselves. I spent a lot of time in the quantum industry. We have financially backed about a half dozen quantum companies, and quantum is early from the perspective of infrastructure, bandwidth infrastructure. It's early, but it's going to be profound. You'll hear the word quantum AI. So the vision of how quantum and AI begin to work together is starting to be a conversation, certainly in the quantum and deep AI worlds. But there's other areas as well. Robotics is being unleashed by AI. A lot of us think of AI as large language models, and that's certainly the most prevalent today. But how AI works with the physical world is another huge aspect. Different types of AI models are guiding spatial and physics kind of connections. And that's going to result in robotics and automated manufacturing, in autonomous vehicles. All those areas are going to be aided by AI and different types of AI models. And all that's going to mean more data center and fiber kind of opportunity. And then the third aspect, which we've invested a lot in and Colorado plays a big role in, is space tech and aerospace. There's a renaissance going on in space applications. In some ways, you can say, well, isn't that removed from what happens here terrestrially? And the answer is absolutely not. There's a strong connection there, both on the data center side. You'll hear some of our most forward-looking scientists and technical minds talking about data centers in the sky, or bringing energy from up above and directing it down to the earth as a powering source. But there's all other kinds of applications that involve generating, collecting data, and shipping that data back here to earth and doing interesting stuff with it. So the combination of aerospace, quantum, robotics are complementing what's going on in AI and will drive digital infrastructure for years to come.
And Dan, a little bit on your book, Bandwidth. How do the lessons from the book resonate with the conversations taking place at Metro Connect this year?
Well, my book, Bandwidth, I published about a year ago, and I wrote the book really as a gift to those who were part of this big journey that started at really in the 1980s when the internet began to be commercialized. AT&T was deregulated, the baby bells were born, fiber optics was leaving the lab and becoming into commercial use. And importantly, the wireless auctions began with the idea that someday we would have phones that we carry around in our pockets. Well, those changes are kind of like the changes that are taking place today. The changes today are different. It's AI, quantum, space tech, robotics. Back then it was internet, fiber, data, and mobile communications. But that launched kind of this 20, 30-year revolution. And that's what the book Bandwidth talks about. It talks about the 1990s and the innovators, the pioneers that built out the first fiber networks. And that goes into the very late 90s, early 2000s, when the big bandwidth meltdown took place, coinciding with the dot bomb. You had the telecom meltdown. And then the resurgence, how that came back strong with companies, including Zayo, but many others, level 3 becoming Lumen, the consolidation of the industry into a more appropriate number of fiber suppliers, and then carries us through to pretty much present day. The book ends in about 2020 when I sold Zayo Group, and then looks forward into the revolution that's taking place now. So it's very interesting for people who are in the industry. They have an opportunity to understand the people, the characters, the heroes, the villains that built up this industry, but they could also draw lessons from it on how to look forward in their careers.
So given how fast everything's moving, can we expect a sequel in the next 5 years or so?
Well, writing Bandwidth was maybe one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I've done some pretty hard things over time. It required a lot of energy, a lot of passion, a lot of research, and a lot of time by myself, which is not how I like to spend my time. So probably not. But what I do have is I have a podcast called The Bear Roars that, among other things, that featured many of the pioneers from the story, and they tell their stories on the podcast itself. So I encourage kind of the Metro Connect crowd to get on there and learn more about the industry by hearing from Bill LaPerch and Kevin O'Hara and Neil Hobbs and Brady Refuse and several others who tell the stories from their lens about how the industry was built and how they navigated their careers.
Dan, that's awesome. Thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you at Metro Connect.
All right. Thank you.